This woodland really saved people during lockdown, and now I think it's the time for them to come and save the wood.
A woods called Weekley Hall. Where are you now? We watch the woodman plunder every living bough, where primrose danced around trees' mossy feet, and bluebell's misty drift is now deplete. So many happy hours in spring were spent among the dark, deep-rutted ridings, which meant so much to children born in town's confines, to breathe untainted air and smell the scented vines. In summer, just to walk within your shade and picnic feast in one of your cool glades, living for a brief and wondrous time as Robin Hood committing his imaginary crimes, or other legendary heroes we pretend, until our day of fantasy would end.
My name's Emily Fedorovich. I'm a local Green Party councillor in Kettering. I'm also the Deputy Mayor here. Weekley Hall Woods is ultimately a woodland, but also it's a meadow, and this whole space, this area here, that's actually the southernmost part of Rockingham Forest, so it's got quite a lot of history to it. And back in sort of the 1700s, it used to actually be common land, so it used to be used for cattle grazing and all that sort of things. For the public to use, it was publicly owned. And then over the years, sort of 100 years later, it was taken on by the Weekley family, and then it was used for quarrying in sort of like the 50s and 60s. So it's had quite a dotted history, but now it's just been left since that time, and it's now full of wildlife and is a really valuable place for locals to come and sort of walk and enjoy the outdoors.
I'm Campbell McCallum, and I'm an ecological consultant.
In Weekley Hall Woods you find a fantastic range of British mammals. This includes roe deer, badgers, foxes, but you can also find invasive species like muntjac and grey squirrels. The thing is, these species can be hard to find because they're mostly active in dusk and dawn, but if you're really quiet, patient and a little bit lucky, you will be able to see them. But that's not all. There's also a plethora of birds, from the wood pigeon to the woodpecker. A key predator you'll be able to see is the red kite. These fantastic birds got hunted to extinction in the 1870s across both England and Scotland. The reason they were hunted to extinction because humans saw them as vermin. Luckily, in the East Midlands they were reintroduced in the 1930s, and they've now taken a stronghold and can be seen across the entire of the UK. The reintroduction programme has had a positive effect on the ecosystem. Another key bird that you can find in Weekley Hall is the linnet. The linnet is a member of the finch family. It's got a red chest, it's just a little bird. It used to be one of the most common birds across the UK, but we've seen its population decrease and is now a British conservation concern. Its key habitat, the wild hedgerow, has been rapidly decreasing due to monoculture farming. It is places like Weekley Hall Woods that linnets thrive. With the reduction of this habitat, it's going to have a devastating effect on this species. Amongst the wildflower meadows and woodland clearings, you can see a large amount of macro wildlife. If you take 30 seconds to look down, you'll see hundreds of insects, including the all-important pollinators like the bees and the butterflies.
Autumn, as the yellowing leaves would flutter down, and the fresh green cloak of summer changed to brown. For nuts we would with squirrels now compete, in search of chestnut, beech and hazels round our feet, gathered among the crispy dying spread of leaves as nature makes her winter bed. Where once I heard the thrush and linnet sing, now the thud of dynamite in my ears ring, as this haven that we thought was ours for keeps was razed down to the ground as the quarry sweeps along to gouge out seams of ironstone, leaving fields of clay so stark like well-picked bone.
A lot of people actually discovered this place throughout lockdown when people had that like 1 hour to get outdoors, people were just making the most of it. it's become so much to so many more people just because of how close it is. People have actually realised quite how big this space is as well. It's probably one of the biggest open green spaces directly adjacent to Kettering. So it's where people can actually directly walk to without having to get in their car. So it's really, really valuable, and during lockdown it's become even more so. In 2020, one of our Green Party members actually stumbled across a very small poster that said about the proposal to build warehouses across the whole of the area, which was thousands of trees and all across a vast amount of meadow. So they put together a petition. That petition now has over 20,000 signatures from people across Kettering, and it has just grown in support. But the proposal for the warehouses is absolutely huge. The campaign was called Save Weekley Hall Woods, and it started out with just the 2 people who found the initial poster, and then has grown exponentially. The support they've had is amazing, and they've actually even made national news from one of their protests that managed to make Weekley sort of adapt their planning application and reduce the amount of area that they were going to destroy. That in itself is a huge, huge success, but obviously the warehouses are still set to go ahead, and it's going to be a huge devastation to this whole area.
It is scientifically proven that nature is pivotal in improving people's mental health. These green areas are very beneficial for people to exercise, meet up, generally enjoy and just connect with nature. Weekley Hall Woods is a greenbelt site. This is basically an area of untouched green space around an urban area. At this point in time, only 13% of the UK consists of natural green space, and only 3.9% of that is accessible to the general public. One of the main ways the British public can connect with nature is out of reach to them, and this is heartbreaking. If these warehouses were to be built, it would have a detrimental effect on the species that live here, specifically the 2,500 species that call this home. The animals use this space in 3 different ways. It's key habitat for where they mate, forage and rest. If you're to remove these woods, you're not just taking away their homes, you're taking away their entire world for some of them. This area of land firstly takes in carbon from the flora that's here, but also stores it. So if you're then going to build warehouses on it, there'll be more CO2 in the atmosphere, more greenhouse gases, rising temperatures and just a detrimental effect on our environment. The more we protect green spaces across the UK, the more likely you are to live a happy, healthy and long life for yourself and your children to come.
On an average weekday, about 700 people use this space, and on a weekend, every day, about 1,000 people are coming through here. Dog walkers, runners, people who are just going for a nice walk and enjoying the countryside right on their doorstep. All of those people are not going to want to do that if this suddenly becomes an industrial estate. It's going to change things completely. It's honestly been so beautiful to see the community come together in this way. I've never seen anything like it, and it's been such a privilege to be a part of it and see what's happened alongside it. The way that people have come together, what they've actually managed to achieve as well, is amazing. Power to the people doesn't even cut it. We've got to keep going. This is so, so important. The carbon sequestered in this soil, the people that thrive off this, but also the plants, the wildlife, the things that are here, they don't have a voice. That's what we've got to be for them. That's why I became a Green Councillor. That's why we're here. This is why we do this. It's so important, and we've got to be the voice for all of that.
Now, as across the landscape I peruse, I picture in my mind the long-gone views of trees majestic, reigning oh so grand, part of the forest that once covered all this land. Pray that some wooded havens we will spare, for our children the countryside to share, to know the pleasures that in childhood we all knew. But Weekley Hall Woods, we're sorry, we grieve too late for you.